Nature has no mercy, only design. Most people look at a forest and see life, a vibrant cycle of growth and renewal. They are wrong. They are looking at a battlefield of cold, calculated engineering where every leaf, every root, and every shadow is a part of a blueprint. A blueprint designed to kill. This is the work of the silent architect, and you have just walked into its latest trap. Think about the silence you hear when you step into the deep woods. It isn't peace. It's the sound of 1,000 machines running at perfect efficiency. Every spiral of a shell, every vein in a wing, every geometric curve of a thorn, it's all math. Cold, hard mathematics applied to the art of murder. We are taught to see beauty in these shapes because we are observers safely tucked behind our lenses. But for the prey, these shapes are the last things they will ever see. Beauty, in this world, is just a byproduct of lethal efficiency. Nature does not build to inspire your soul. It builds to entrap your body, to consume your energy, and to recycle your remains into the next project. Consider the engineering of the void. The spider is not just an insect. It is a structural engineer of the highest order. Most see a web as a fragile, shimmering string, a delicate work of art catching the morning dew. But zoom in. Look at the physics of it. It is a masterpiece of high-tension chemistry, stronger than steel, flexible enough to absorb the kinetic energy of a desperate, panicked life. The spider doesn't just sit, it listens through its feet. It calculates the vibration of every thread, distinguishing the struggle of a fly from the weight of a leaf. It knows the exact frequency of a dying wing. Some architects don't wait for the prey to stumble into a net. The ogre-faced spider, a creature of pure nightmare, hangs in the absolute darkness, clutching a rectangular net of silk between its front limbs. It doesn't move. It doesn't breathe. It waits for the precise millisecond to cast that net over a passing shadow. It is a calculated ambush, a mobile prison, a ghost in the machinery of the night. It uses the geometry of the dark against the living. Then there are the webs you cannot see. The bolus spider, which mimics the pheromones of its prey, drawing them in with a chemical lie before swinging a single, sticky globule of silk like a medieval mace. This is not instinct. It is a calculated manipulation of biology. It is the architect rewriting the rules of the hunt. Every strand of silk is a death sentence, woven with a precision that would put human factories to shame. And as you move from the silk to the soil, you realize the ground beneath your feet is not solid. It is a ceiling for a world of tunnels. The trapdoor spider constructs a bunker, a perfectly circular lid made of soil, silk, and moss. It is invisible to the naked eye. The hinges are reinforced with the strongest fibers, designed to withstand the frantic escape attempts of whatever is dragged down into the dark. You are walking over thousands of these hidden doors every day, never knowing that a few inches below, an architect is waiting for the vibration of your step to signal the start of a hunt. The earth is not a floor. It is a collection of trapdoors. Now, shift your gaze from the silk to the soil. Here, we find architects that don't weave, they grow. They're the green cathedrals of the undergrowth, but their steeples are hollow, and their altars are filled with acid. The pitcher plant is not a victim of its environment. It is a master of psychological warfare and structural manipulation. Its walls are not just green leaves. They are microscopic ice rings coated in a substance so slick that no limb, no matter how many claws it has, can find purchase. But the true genius of the silent architect is not just in the fall. It is in the deception that follows. Deep inside these living tombs, the plant manipulates the light. It creates translucent windows, false exits, built into the top of its hood. As the insect falls into the digestive pool at the bottom, it looks up and sees what looks like the sky. It flies toward that light, hitting the walls over and over, wasting its last bit of oxygen on a line manufactured by a plant. The architect doesn't hunt. It doesn't move. It simply designs a situation where gravity, light, and exhaustion do the killing for it. It is a slow, quiet, and perfectly engineered drowning in a vessel of its own making. But if the plants are the cathedrals, Then the fungi are the architects of the unseen world. Beneath every forest floor lies a neural network of mycelium, miles of white, pulsing threads that connect every tree and every blade of grass. We like to call it the wood wide web, a poetic term for a dark reality. This is an infrastructure of exploitation. The fungi decide which tree lives and which tree dies. They redistribute nutrients like cold-hearted bankers, taxing the healthy to keep the weak alive just long enough to continue this cycle of decay. It is an empire of rot. When a tree finally falls, the silent architect begins its most complex project, the architecture of decomposition. It isn't a mess. It is a meticulously organized breakdown. Watch the way the mold spreads in perfect fractaline patterns. Watch the way the mushrooms erupt from the bark like silent, pale chimneys. They are breathing out the carbon of a dead giant, turning a corpse into a nursery for the next generation of killers. This is the beauty we are sold, the cycle of life. But look closer and you see it for what it is, a recycling plant where nothing is wasted and no soul is spared. The scale of this design is staggering. There are fungi that don't wait for things to die. They're the architects of the mind, the puppeteers of the insect world. Consider the cordyceps. It doesn't just kill, it renovates. It enters the body of an ant and begins to dismantle its brain, replacing its will with a structural command. The ant is no longer an ant. It is a scaffolding. It is forced to climb, to leave its colony, to find the exact height and the exact humidity required for the architect's next phase. Once the location is reached, the ant is locked in place, and the fungus erupts from its head like a grotesque tower. It uses the height to scatter its spores, turning the wind into a carrier for its blueprints. This is the ultimate evolution of the silent architect, when the victim becomes the building, when your own bones are used as the pillars for someone else's home, when your last breath is used to power the engine of your own destruction. It is a world where every organism is a potential construction site, and every biological process is just another line in a contract that you never signed. There is no mercy in this design. There is only the relentless expansion of the blueprint, moving from cell to cell, from body to body, until the entire world is nothing more than a hollowed-out monument to the architect's ambition. And as you stand there in the middle of the woods, you have to ask yourself, are you the observer, or are you just a piece of raw material that hasn't been used yet? The ground beneath you isn't just dirt, it's a foundation. The air around you isn't just oxygen, it's a medium for spores. Everything is ready. Everything is in place. The architect has been waiting for millions of years for someone like you to walk into the frame. The scale of this architecture only grows as we descend into the shadows of the hive. Consider the collective mind of the colony. The termite mounds that rise from the scorched earth like jagged, blackened teeth. These are not just piles of dirt. They are complex, breathing monuments to a cold, hive-based logic that defies human comprehension. Inside these structures, there are thousands of miles of tunnels, a labyrinth of ventilation shafts that inhale and exhale with the rising sun, maintaining a perfect, stifling temperature for the fungal farms deep within. Thousands of blind workers move in total darkness, driven by a blueprint they cannot see and an intelligence they will never understand. They build cathedrals that outlast human empires, monuments made of mud, saliva, and the absolute sacrifice of the individual. There is no leader giving orders. There is no king drawing plans in the sand. There is only the architecture itself, a silent, growing machine that breathes through the very soil you stand on. It is a fortress built by a ghost for a ghost. But even these towers are small compared to the designs found in the deep, crushing silence of the ocean. There, the silent architect works with bioluminescence and pressure. Consider the siphonophore, a creature that is not a single animal, but a floating colony of specialized individuals, all linked together to form a single, lethal entity. It stretches through the abyss like a glowing, venomous wire, sometimes reaching lengths that dwarf the blue whale. Each part of its body is a specialized tool. Some are the engines, some are the stomachs, and some are the shimmering, beautiful lures that promise light in the darkness. It is a living net, a miles-long trap drifting through the void, waiting for anything to touch its delicate, electrified threads. It is the ultimate expression of the architect's philosophy, that life is more efficient when it is a factory. In the deep, there is no room for the soul, only for the function. You're looking at a being that is a building, a hunter that is a fence, a life that is a blueprint for a nightmare. And as we zoom out, we realize that the silent architect is not just building traps, it is building a world. Look at the way the coral reefs construct cities of stone from the calcium of the sea. Look at the way the forests create their own weather systems to ensure their survival. Everything is connected by a dark, underlying geometry. We like to think of ourselves as the masters of this planet, but we are merely tenants living in a house we did not build and whose rules we do not understand. We build our cities of glass and steel, thinking we have escaped the design of the wild. But look at a skyscraper and then look at a termite mound. Look at our internet and then look at the mycelial networks under the floor. We aren't inventing anything new. We're just poorly imitating the blueprints that have been perfected over billions of years. The architect was here long before our ancestors crawled out of the mud. And the architect will be here long after our greatest cities have been reclaimed by the vines and the rot. This is the final truth of the silent architect. You are not the observer. You are the material. Every breath you take is a loan from a system that expects to be paid back with interest. Your body is a collection of minerals and carbon that the architect is simply holding in trust. One day, the contract will expire. The ground will open its mouth. The fungi will send out their scouts. The rot will begin its meticulous, beautiful work of dismantling everything you thought you were. The forest isn't watching you. It is waiting for you to become part of the foundation. The silence isn't empty. It is the sound of the blueprint being updated. And as the camera fades to black, remember this: the architect never sleeps. It doesn't need to. It has already designed your end. And as you walk away from the screen, look behind you. The shadows are moving. The walls are breathing. The design is closing in. You are home,